Happy New Year, beautiful people, and welcome to 2026. This is Dr. Anissa Short with Conversations with Chosen Pen, and I am excited to have you as our special guest throughout this first quarter of the new year. The theme is Women to Watch, the 2026 edition, and each month we have a specific focus. We're going to kick this quarter off in the month of January, introducing you to the divas of DeSoto County, Mississippi. These entrepreneurs and thought leaders are making a difference, and I cannot wait to introduce you to each and every one. In the month of February, we're focusing on leaders with heart. These women are advocates for causes that they are extremely passionate about. Each one lives in a different state. Each one has a phenomenal platform, and you're going to learn more about their work in their communities. In the month of March, we're going to close out the quarter with lights, camera, action. Each one of these women are engaged in the arts community. They are either writers or producers or directors or agents. They are award winners. I cannot wait for you to meet them. The entire quarter is already booked. Needless to say, I'm excited, and I want you to join us each Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Not only do I want to see you join us, but I want you to invite a friend. Welcome to 2026. Let's get this exciting quarter started. Make it a great day, and I look to see you soon. Hey, great evening, great Tuesday evening, everybody. It is Dr. Anissa Short, Conversations with Chosen Pen, once again with a new guest, a new week. We are still within the Women to Watch theme, and in this month of February, we're closing it out with another advocate, a woman who is committed to her cause, committed to her clients, committed to her community. And guess what, you guys? She's my sister. So listen, welcome. I want you all to be nice. Be nice to my sister. Okay. She's my only sister. So, hey, ToMecia, thanks so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
Did you like the introduction?
Oh, I thought it was absolutely wonderful. I was listening. Yeah, wanted more.
All right. So here's the thing. You know, I shared in my intro, I made the first quarter be about women to watch, women who are doing things in their communities, whether they be entrepreneurs, operating nonprofits. And in this month of February, because it is Heart Health Month, I thought, what about women who have a heart for specific causes? We've talked with someone who's really big on mental wellness, another one who's on wellness in general. Today, ToMecia, my sister, has been very much engaged in patient care services, and for I don't know how many years, very engaged with working with patients that are sickle cell. That are living with sickle cell. Let me say it that way. So before we go into the specificity out of that, I want her to tell you a little bit about herself, not all of her deep dark secrets, but just a little bit about who she is, what she's been doing, a little bit about her career, so the dots all connect. So ToMecia, tell everybody a little bit about who you be.
Well, this is the hardest thing. I don't even know how to explain who I am or tell. I don't know how to do that. I can do that for someone else. So I'll say you've already told my name, ToMecia Conard, Stafford. I am a licensed social worker, and I do work with patients. I've been doing the work I've done in the medical field for about, I'm going to say 20 plus years, 22, 23, 24, something like that years. Currently, in the last few years, I would say in the last maybe 15 years, I've been working direct patient care services with sickle cell patients. And in the last maybe 3 to 5 years, it's been sickle cell still, but it's also been blood disorders, infectious disease, primarily HIV. But I have a strong passion for sickle cell disease because that is a population of individuals or carriers that doesn't really get a lot of attention and rarely gets noticed. So gotcha. I've been a strong advocate for that community.
So let me just give everybody a little backstory, because I know this personally, because as I said already, she's my sister. So my sister's been very much engaged in social work since college. And I remember once upon a time, she said this is not what she intended, but it was almost like a calling. So she's worked with youth. She's worked with family and children. She's went in the hospice sector as a social worker.
And then eventually she got into the hospital settings where she became a medical social worker, doing assessments, doing discharges. She worked at one of the largest hospitals in Detroit, Michigan, and then moved back south. We always move back home. Anyway, moved back south, and she worked with she's worked with two hospitals, well, really probably three, but anyway, two major hospitals here in the area. And again, as she said, patient services. So ToMecia, this is what I want to ask before we jump into the sickle cell specifically. How do you look at your position in social work, or the role in which you serve, in inclusive of everything that you've done? How would you define this career?
I don't know how to answer that, really. I think that there's a lot of ways to answer that. For me, I don't know if it's what you're looking for, but it's rewarding for me. So that's how I would define my career.
Yeah.
Again, it's nothing that I chosen. It chose me. That's what I always say. Social work chose me. I truly had my eyes and my hands in another area. I even got a degree in another area. But what happened is that I went and got my graduate school degree, my master's in social work, because I was afforded that opportunity, and it just paid off. So when you think about being in the healthcare sector, and I've also worked over in corrections. I worked in that area with juveniles and adults. I worked in that area as well. But it's always the same. It's people. It's a connection with people. So for me, it comes really easy. I'm able to build rapport. I'm able to get some things out of people that most folks can't get out of them. But I'm also able to kind of offer a service that I think helps change lives. So for me, I say it's been rewarding. It's been rewarding.
I love it. I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was kind of looking for. As a matter of fact, I would say that in looking from the outside in all the ways in which you served, you could very easily adopt the mantra of Brown Missionary Baptist Church, changing lives and making a difference, because that's what you've done, right? I remember stories that I won't go into stories because we don't want to incriminate anyone. So we're just going to keep going.
Just don't say names.
Yeah, we won't say names. So here's the thing. I remember when you got engaged or became a part of the sickle cell clinic at one of the local hospitals, and you became the social worker for that area, but it wasn't your full-time thing. It was like you were working in one segment of the hospital, and you went to the sickle cell clinic area. I think, was it once or twice a week? And then eventually it became your full-time thing. Talk a little bit about what that was like, flip-flopping back and forth.
Okay. So initially I was on the floors for so many years, and I got the opportunity to leave the floors and cover all what we call the outpatient ancillary, all the outpatient clinics. There was about 3 different clinics, and I was the social worker for those clinics. And so I had, I was visiting those clinics on a daily basis. I had a set routine. And again, the sickle cell center, the clinic, was one of those. And so I enjoyed it because I was able to do something different. I had radiation. I had the cancer unit, so radiation, chemotherapy. I also had bone marrow transplant. That's cancer as well, or blood disorders. Then I had the sickle cell, which is blood. That's hematology. So you got oncology, hematology, same. Not the same, but dealing with blood also. So. For me, flip-flopping, initially it was like, oh my goodness, it's going to be a lot. But then but it wasn't. I got pulled just to do sickle cell by one of my most favorite doctors. I won't say her name here, but she's phenomenal. Anyway, I got pulled to do that. So flip-flopping wasn't really hard for me. It was a great experience. It really was. And it kind of afforded me the opportunity to create a schedule that worked best for me.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. The reason I wanted to go into that is because I don't want people to think, not that what they think really matters, but I wanted them to be able to have a grasp of the varied ways in which you served as a social worker. You're being a part of the sickle cell community. What didn't happen just overnight. It was something that you were actually introduced to. And then when you got into that department, listen, I know everything, almost everything anyway. So when you got over there, it became like your primary, because then you saw the need not only just to do the outpatient assessments and things of that nature, but you saw so many other things that the patients needed in order to, I guess, better improve their quality of life. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did that, because you introduced these other measures into what you all were already doing, and then the hospital adopted it. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Let me go back to add one piece before I talk about that. I like to add that when I was working the floors, at any given time on one particular floor that I worked on, they would get sickle cell patients there. And sometimes they would get what they call frequent flyers. And so sometimes healthcare professionals I think can not necessarily lose heart, but they can appear to lose heart when they begin to deal with the same thing over and over again and see it repetitively. And patients that's dealing with sickle cell disease see this firsthand often in the emergency departments. They see it in their schools. They see it in their as employees with their employers. And so people don't believe them, just to say what it is. They don't believe them. And so when they began on the floors to make comments that really wasn't nice or kind, I would say, well, what does it matter if they're in pain again? What does it matter if they're saying they're in pain, but they're not? At the end of the day, we get to go home. Who would want to stay in the hospital and receive all this pain medicine or whatever it is, treatment, and they're really not needing it? Who would want to do that? And so they would say to me, oh, spoken by the little social worker, and they would say things like, oh, because I was like that about for every patient. It's kind of a bulldog. But I didn't know what sickle cell was. And the bad part about that is not necessarily that they weren't kind, but because I'm Black, I'm African American, right? I am of African descent. And that is originally where it comes from. We were the first people to ever experience this disease, and it's really with us. And so for me to never heard of this disease and not know anything about it, that was really shameful. That didn't come to me until after I went to the center. So that was a part of my push, because now I know about something I didn't know about, and I really should have known about it. So now I have a desire to tell everybody about it, because if we can eradicate this disease, then this would be phenomenal. So I began to go on a quest on how do I get information about this disease to everybody that I know. The sad part about it is that this clinic was in the hospital. It was fairly new, but I didn't know about it before covering. And those on the floors in the hospital didn't know about it, from administrators to just ancillary staff. No one knew about this clinic. So no one. So how do you refer someone to somewhere you don't know about it? How do you do that also if you don't even know about this disease? So for me, it became like, this is something I got to do. And as I began to work with these patients, I kind of saw their plight, and I'm like, this is really devastating. There may be a few patients, and there are a few patients that maybe embellish what they're going through. But I learned quickly that if they don't embellish, they're going to be ignored, right? If their pain is not a 10, it may be an 8. Well, anything over a 2 is bad to me. So if they'll say, oh, it's a 5 or 6, 7, 8, but if they don't, they're not going to get help. So they have to, but it's only a small fraction that does that. So for me, I think that when I saw their needs with transportation, getting back and forth to the doctor appointments, being able to afford their medicines or getting the right medicines, or even just someone speaking on their behalf, because sometimes you're in so much pain, you can't even speak. And so I became a voice for them. And then I began to do therapy with them, because sometimes they come from traumatic situations, or they come from dysfunctional situations. They come from impoverished situations. And without having a voice, without having a support system, you're the one that's going to be left behind. Yeah. So to me, it became a calling, and I took it serious. And that's what I did. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit. I want to tap a little bit into what you made reference to with regards to those in the hospital didn't know the clinic exists. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't understand the disease, and then there were people in the community who didn't know the clinic existed. And so you took it upon yourself to be the voice for the clinic, the voice for the patients. Let's talk a little bit about. Give us 1 or 2 examples of the things that you, I don't want to say we're responsible for, but let me say very actively engaged in seeing happen in the success of the community, or the information being disseminated at a greater rate.
Okay. So I'm gonna this one thing that was beneficial in the sickle cell center. It didn't start at the sickle cell center, but I will say this: when I worked for another company within the hospital, they were coming for radiation treatments, but they couldn't get there. So our hospital would actually provide cab rides for patients, but the cab rides were expensive. It's, this is before Uber, this is before Lyft, or should I say it was before those in our area. And so I was speaking with someone who had actually gotten a Lyft just to come to work because he was getting his car fixed. And I was like, Lyft? No, explain that to me. So he told me about it. And so what I did was I took how much he paid for it and I did a cross reference to see how much it would have cost with the same address with the cab voucher. The cabs, and it was a significant difference. It was ridiculous how much cheaper. I said Lyft, but it was actually Uber. But those rides were. So what I did was I created a plan. I took a couple of examples, and I presented it to the hospital to see if we can get it changed. And what happened is that I was instrumental in getting that change. So we stopped using yellow cab. Sorry, yellow cab drivers. We stopped using yellow cab and we went to use Ubers. Okay. And so, in which changed to Lyft because Lyft was actually a little safer and a little more less expensive. But anyway, once I started working in the department with sickle cell, I realized a lot of those patients had Medicaid. Medicaid does pay for transportation. The issue is that if you live in outlying areas, it's not picking you up. Or if you need a right now ride, because you got to get to the emergency room quickly, that sometimes transportation it's not going to work for you. You have to have a 3-day notice. So that's not going to work. So I was able to utilize Lyft to get our patients to and from their appointments, which was instrumental in their care. What happened is that our no-show rate for scheduled appointments went down. And also we were able to stop using the emergency room so much because our patients were able to be seen inside of the outpatient clinic. So that was because, well, for many factors, but being able to get a transportation there was one of those things that I was able to implement.
Right.
Yeah. And then also implemented that I was able to go out with people to do community education in schools. I did health fairs. I designed those things to do education in the communities, and in the community also included inside the hospital over in inpatient settings. Again, like I said, they weren't really aware of what we offer. So
I love that. I remember when all that was evolving, even though I was not here. Okay, so let's fast forward. You're not with that hospital anymore. You're not working in that sickle cell clinic anymore. You are at a totally different hospital, but you are still working with sickle cell patients, and as you indicated, those who have infectious diseases and that type of thing. But as a result of the relationships that you established while at the previous location, you met someone who was his own voice, and he was very passionate, not only in what he about improving the quality of his life, but using his gift to make a difference. And so let's talk a little bit about art over odds.
Art over odds.
Yes. Art over odds. Okay, I'm going to put that in it. I jacked that up again. All right, so let me put this on a banner. So we want to see, is it art over odds? Now, how did you get involved with that organization? Tell us a little bit about the organization and how you got involved.
Okay, so it's Arts with an S over odds, AOO. And that was one of my patients. And I'm going to say his name because that is his foundation. And I like to give light to him because if you look it up, he would love your support. His name is Kristen Dukes. And Kristen have what we call a couple of comorbidities, which is not just one issue, sickle cell disease. He has a few that he deals with on a daily basis. I think when he was born, he was like 2 ounces. The doctor said he would not live. And here it is now. He's like 30, I believe. He just turned 30. So Kristen lives a full life. So I met him in the sickle cell center. He was one of the patients there. And he would have to tell you what gravitated him towards me. I don't know, but what gravitated me towards him was the fact that he did everything he could to stay on top of his medicines, on top of his disease, on top of his desire for his life, as far as like moving forward with a business. He was a part of his own musical band. He plays a trombone. It's a trombone that he plays. I could be wrong with that, but it's a whatever that thing is. He plays a musical instrument, and he is phenomenal. What makes it so exciting is that being told that you wouldn't live and being his lungs supposedly hadn't functioned, hadn't grown like they should have, being that he was a premature baby. But here it is, you have sickle cell disease as well. If you know anything about sickle cell disease, it actually affects the oxygen. It's hemoglobin in your blood. That creates oxygen. When your hemoglobin is affected, you don't have much oxygen, And of course, you can't really breathe. It takes away, you have shortness of breath. So here it is. He has 2 different diseases that are affecting his ability to just live and be. But he's playing an instrument that requires
which takes nothing but breath. Right.
Full breath, right. And so I was amazed the first time I was I went to one of his concerts as a patient, where he was a patient. And I think I had my mouth open the whole time, like, I was like, oh my goodness, man, this guy's phenomenal. So I began to like really support him in his endeavors. Fast forward, he designed the foundation, Arts Over Odds. And what he does is he brings education, no doubt, not just about sickle cell disease, but what he wants to do is encourage anyone that has an odd, which means you may be dealing with a disability in some form or fashion. It could be something like ADHD, or it could be a physical, it could be a mental, but you have a desire to play music or to do anything in the arts, paint, sing, whatever that is. He encourages them to get involved, and he provides a platform for that to happen. And so I am on the board as a secretary for him, and I actually help to create events, and I help to make sure they come into fruition. I work with him along his side in that area.
And that's been what, 2 or 3 years now, or has it been longer?
It's been longer than that. Because it's probably been about 4 years, maybe.
Okay.
About 4 years.
And it's artsoverodds.org. Is that the name of
That's it. Okay. Artsoverodds.org.
I want to show that because I want people to know how to connect, because we're looking for anyone who might want to participate that fit the mission, anyone who wants to support the mission. Let me see if I can share the website. I hope I got the right website up. If not, somebody else gonna get free advertising in a minute. But it's funny that, and it's not funny, because you said it earlier that this was not, being a social worker was not anything that you endeavored to do. It was like it called you. And then because you have been engaged, now you see why, because everything that you're doing still is patient care. It really is. I'm going to try to share the screen. Tell me if I have the right screen pulled up, please.
That's it.
All right, good deal. All right, so let me scroll down so you can see it. Here's the thing: is arts with an S over odds with an S.org. You can make a donation. Yeah. But I didn't know that the young man, I knew he had sickle cell, was diagnosed with sickle cell disease. I did not know he had the other condition that also would affect his breath. The mere fact that he can play an instrument, and whether it be a trombone, saxophone, trumpet, it doesn't matter, because that's a wind instrument.
Yeah.
It's not like piano where you're just sitting, and I'm not negating anyone who's proficient in playing piano, but I get what you're meaning. It's a constant, you're constantly breathing and blowing.
Exactly.
So to do that in and of itself, but they do music lessons, photography and videography classes, dance lessons. And then they have here, this is old, but I know there's an annual event every year that you attend. I know it's at least once a year. It may be more often, where it's a major fundraiser. When is that next event? Do you have a date for it yet?
I don't have a date for that yet. We haven't set the date for that yet. It's usually sometime in October, but I'm not certain as the date just now. But what we are planning in March and April, we're planning just that. We're getting with we've actually partnered with a church, and we're planning photography lessons, percussion lessons, dance lessons. There will be a choir for those who are interested in those certain areas, and we have instructors that have volunteered to carry out and do just teach those things with the kids that come out to want to participate. And it's filling up. So this is for youth. Is this for kids or for adults as well? No, it's not for adults. It is for children up to the age of 18.
Okay. All right. So that's April and May. I mean, no, you said March and April.
Yeah. And I'm not sure of the facility, the name of it. I've been given it, but it's in Memphis, but I'd have to look through my email to be certain on that.
So would they be able to just do the contact with the website and get more information about that?
Oh, yes. They email to that website. They'll definitely be able to get more information on where and how, where it's located and how to attend.
Okay, excellent. All right. So one last question, sis. What would you want someone to know that may be totally oblivious of sickle cell, the impact that it has on people, whether it be just being totally ignorant of the disease or how to be more compassionate to what they deal with. What would be the bit of advice that you would extend to anyone who might be watching that has no clue?
Wow. My bit of advice is probably a whole book. I think I would start off with learning your status. Always when I do community engagement events, I love doing them on college campuses because they're just humping and jumping. I'm just going,
Yeah,
more
right.
frequently. And the issue is that although you may go to play, you don't necessarily mean to stay.
Right.
And once you get up, you may have gotten more than what you bargained for. So
True.
what I tell the youth is that I tell anybody, know your status, because it's not just about knowing if you're HIV positive or if the person you're with is HIV positive or if they have any kind of issues. You need to know if they have a sickle cell trait or not,
Yeah.
because the traits and the trait equals sickle cell disease. Okay. So if you don't know if you have it or not, you need to ask your doctor for an apheresis blood test to see if you're a carrier. Because
Yeah.
again, if you get with someone else who doesn't know, if they were born after about 86, which usually really, I want to say in the 90s, but I've gone all the way back. Usually those are born after about or before, before 86. No. If you're born before 1993, you should be asking what your trait status is, so that you'll be well prepared that when you choose a partner, that you know what to expect. Because
That's
again,
good to
trait and
know.
trait equals sickle cell disease. If he or she is a carrier, then that's going to equal that. If only one is a carrier, then the possibility of your child will have the trait, but not sickle cell disease possibly. So you want to know. So what is your status? Ask your doctor if you don't know for that test, apheresis blood test. I would also say that if you're an employer, then to be mindful and to care. I know that employers have rules and regulations and policies, but if someone has the disease themselves, sickle cell disease, the symptoms of sickle cell disease is both spontaneous and it's unpredictable. It'll just pop up at any time, and you don't know when it's going to pop up. You could be doing great right now, and then in a few minutes you would be in the bed with a serious pain crisis. If the weather changes, whether it's extreme cold, whether it's extreme hot, whether it's raining, then they can experience a pain crisis, and the pain crisis at different levels. They'll do everything they can, bath, water, ibuprofen, but sometimes it's not enough. And they may be able to manage it at home. They don't always go to the hospital, but sometimes they end up going to the hospital for professional treatment. So be mindful of that, because they need their jobs. They need someone to understand that. And if you are a teacher or you are a student and someone is sitting beside you in class, it's nothing to play with, and it's nothing to make fun of or make light of. They need you to always give them some water. Say, hey, here's a water bottle. Help them carry a backpack. If you're on the football field, then block a blow. Don't let anybody hit them, but they want to have a normal life as well. So maybe you're going to take 2 blows in order to help your partner. So I would say be mindful, be educated about the disease, and always lend a helping hand. Today you're up, but tomorrow you can be down. It doesn't have to be sickle cell disease. So I always remember that today may be a good day, but tomorrow may not. And if you live with that mantra that, you know what, I got to be of service to someone else in order for someone to be of service to me, then maybe we can, we can help alleviate some of the things that people go through.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. Well, I appreciate again you giving us all this good information, sister. I know that as you said before, it's really shocking that those of us who live in the African American community, who are part of the African American community, are often the most ignorant of when it comes to conditions and diseases of this nature that is prevalent in our community. And then not only are we ignorant of it, or we may be familiar, but then we are clueless as to how to support, how to advocate, how to be a sister friend or a brother friend to someone who's dealing with it. I know I became more aware of the disease as a result of you being a part of the patient care community for that particular community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, when, of course, at the time I was living in North Carolina, that I had one or two people that I saw on a regular basis that suffered with that lived with sickle cell, right? And then because I found that out, I was more inquisitive. I would check on them more. Are you okay? There was once or twice they called me because they were in a pain crisis and needed to just take them to the hospital. But because I was better informed, you know what I mean? I positioned myself to be of help if I could, you know. And I think that's what you're saying. That's how you got involved, although it was job related. But because you're now a part of Arts Over Odds, you're going a step further. It's not just because of work, it's because you're very much an advocate.
Immersed into the community. Yeah. I did it on my own also. Yeah, exactly.
Right. You're choosing, as you said earlier, to be a voice for those that may not have a voice. So thank you again for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
artsoverodds.org. Be sure to look them up, make a donation, check out what they have coming up soon. And if you have more information about sickle cell disease, how your youth might be involved with the activities that they have going forth, again, just go to the website. Someone will eventually, I'm sure, get in touch with you and give you all the information you need to know. So listen, that's it for tonight, you guys. We are ending this month. Women with Heart, Leaders with Heart. We're closing out our second month in the quarter, and we kick off the month of March with Lights, Camera, Action. I'm excited about the women that I have coming on. They are directors and producers and playwrights, and they are award winners. And these are women that I've become connected to over the years. And so to have them close us out for this quarter is going to be phenomenal. At the end of the month of March, our Voices magazine for this quarter, it will be released, and it is a continuation of Women to Watch. So we'll be featuring other women in the magazine to close out this first quarter, which ends with Women's History Month. That's what March is, Women's History Month. So the magazine will be a culmination of the entire quarter and a way to celebrate Women's History Month. So I know you guys are just sick of me talking about Women to Watch, but guess what? The next quarter is going to be about a family affair. It's a family affair. We're going to talk about family in April, May, and June in various different ways. But as usual, Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Central. Join me here. Conversations with Chosen Pen. Like, comment, share, and let's grow this community, you guys. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and make it a great week.